Hello, welcome back to the Polytunnel. It's the end of May now, the very beginning of June, and for the last couple of weeks here in South Wales we have had some really dismal weather. It's pretty much been raining every day and really cloudy, and today is the first day that we've had really good sun and all of the plants in here have managed to have a really good sunbathe. Now it's about 3 p.m. in the afternoon. It's starting to get a little bit shadier in here, so you can probably see from the lighting that it's getting a little bit dull, but it is so warm, and over the last couple of weeks that's what's really been lacking in here. It's just not got very warm at all, so I'm really pleased now that the sun's been out, and I'm hoping over the very beginning of June that we're going to have some really nice sunny weather so things can really start to thrive and grow like crazy in here. So you'll be able to see behind me that I've already planted quite a lot of crops now in here. There will be some more things that I'm planting in a couple of weeks, but at the moment I'm pretty happy with the way we're going. This time last year, I'd really only just built this polytunnel and I was organising the beds. I put a few bits and pieces in, but nothing as advanced as this, so I really am so happy. One of the things though that I'm really happy about is I have planted some cucumbers in here. I've got one here, one at the back and one just in front of you down there, and I've never grown with string like this before. When I've grown my tomatoes in the past in here, it was on your left hand side there, the right hand side there, and in the greenhouse, and I wasn't able, nowhere where I grew the tomatoes had a pole at the top that I could tie string onto. So the cucumbers are going here, and I'm really hoping that they're going to climb all the way up there and do really well this year. But I have got some gaps kind of just in between it here and here and just behind, where hopefully I'm going to get some melons in. However, I've only just sown those melons, so I don't know if they're going to catch up, but fingers crossed. But anyway, what I'll do is I'll just take you down to the bottom here and we can have a quick look at how the onions are doing. So over on the right hand side of the polytunnel is where I have about a 4 metre or maybe 3 metre row of onions, but unfortunately they're not doing very well at all. I've always been quite successful with growing onions out in the open ground at the allotment. I grew them pretty well in the polytunnel at the allotment last year. But in here, these were planted, you know, in around about, I think, March time. These were planted out into the ground here, but they just, I don't know, they seem to be really wilty and, you know, just not as good as the ones that I've got down at the allotment. So I'm not sure if I'm going to let these grow fully or rip them out and put something else in, but at the moment they're still growing in the ground. And then I've just got a couple of tomato plants kind of in between them, but what I'm thinking, when the onions come out here, I'll probably replace them with some salad or some dwarf French beans. Down at the other end of the onion bed now, I've planted another tomato inside a halo, and then I've got 2 courgette plants with a nasturtium in between. Over the last couple of weeks since I've actually planted these courgettes, they haven't seemed to do that much. I think they have put on a bit of new growth now, and they are getting some flower buds just appearing. But where we've had this really cold weather for the last couple of weeks, I think everything's just hunkered down a bit now, and we're just kind of getting ready to wait for that warmer weather. But luckily, only there is a little bit of slug damage on both of them, but on the whole they've survived, which I'm really thankful for, because if we'd not had that, you know, good weather for a few weeks, sometimes things just don't stand a chance and the slugs are able to have free reign. But been really lucky here. Another thing that I've done on this side of the polytunnel is try out growing in some hanging baskets. I've never actually grown in a hanging basket before. I've seen a lot of people do it in the past, but when I visited Carl on his no-dig allotment a couple of weeks ago, he was already growing some tomatoes in hanging baskets, and I was really inspired. So I popped out to the local shop, one of the kind of budget shops, and picked up a couple of hanging baskets, but I also had a really old hanging basket that I'd found, and I got a new insert for it. And I could put a couple of tomato plants in. So we've got a tumbling tomato yellow and a tumbling tomato red. And then I've got 3 strawberries growing in here. So I'm really excited to see how they go. I went for tumbling varieties of tomatoes because they're the bushy ones that will hopefully kind of grow really big and hang really nicely. But using hanging baskets inside a polytunnel is a really good way to make use of extra space. And potentially when it's the height of summer, if your polytunnel's in full sun all day, it might really help kind of give a little bit of shade in here. But one thing I have done is when I put the hanging baskets together, the first thing I did was put a dish at the very bottom before I put any compost in. So hopefully, if it's a really hot day and you're not able to water, there will be a little reservoir in there where that plant can get a bit of water. So if you use hanging baskets in your polytunnel, let me know what you're growing in there, because it's a really good idea. And like I said, I was inspired by seeing Carl using them, but I know Rue from Rue's Life also has them in a polytunnel, so definitely worth a go. In the central bed, I haven't actually got a lot growing at the moment. I've already showed you the cucumber plants that I've got, but the next crop that I've just put in a couple of days ago is a salad crop. The variety that I'm growing here is called Catalonga. It's a variety that I had in my seed stash, so I've not grown it before, but hopefully it grows pretty well. At the moment, it's looking really good actually. I planted this 3 days ago, and looking at it now, I think there is only one that looks like it's had a nibble. All of the rest of them are actually looking pretty pristine. So fingers crossed they keep growing really nicely. So now we're on the left hand side of the polytunnel, and this is probably the more productive looking area. Just down at this end here, I do have a couple of onions. Now these onions actually look a lot better than the onions that I've got planted over there. But I did plant 50 of these in the autumn, and I think quite a few of them actually got eaten by something. I'm not sure what. So I've only got about 3 or 4 left there, but I'm just letting them grow on until they're ready to be harvested. But one thing I've got in between those is I've actually planted some purple queen dwarf French beans, and I actually sowed those direct. They're just starting to come up now, so fingers crossed on those ones. Then we've got a tomato plant in between, some more French beans. Now these French beans here are called, I want to call them table queen, but I don't think that's what they're called. I think they're purple queen. Yes, table queen is a squash and purple queen is the beans. But these beans have actually been attacked quite a lot now, and at the back I've got 2 beans that are pretty much completely gone, and a load of other ones that have got quite a lot of damage. Now these went in just well, a couple of weeks ago now, just before we had all that really rubbish weather. So I think they were just sitting ducks really. The ground was damp and hasn't dried out, so all the slugs have had free reign on this side of the polytunnel, and they've just eaten them. If you're worried though that there's not going to be enough airflow with the beans and the tomatoes going forward throughout the year, I am going to be starting to take the side shoots out of the tomatoes, and I will be taking out the bottom branches or trusses of the tomato plants, so don't worry at all. And I've actually grown beans successfully between my tomato plants down at the polytunnel, so a really good way of making use of the space. But then continuing on, I've got a bit of an empty space between these tomato plants, and then I have some more beans. Now these are Belotti beans, which is a dwarf French bean that is amazing for drying and keeping the beans, and these ones are looking a lot better, so really pleased with these. There are a couple at the back that have been eaten, but then what I've also done is I've direct sown some more behind. So I've got the same varieties there, the same varieties here. If you don't know, a French bean is self-fertile and doesn't cross-pollinate between French beans. However, you never know if they do, so I like to keep the varieties together in clumps if I can. So I know when I save the seeds, if I grow them again next year, they will be true. And then just at the very back there, I've just got a couple more tomato plants, but nothing else in the ground there at the moment. Down at the very end of the polytunnel, I don't know if you remember, but I used to have a green unit here that I was putting kind of plants on before I put them out and using this as an area for my seedlings. But I've now taken that down to the greenhouse, where I've got a much better area to be able to kind of have a propagation station and keep all of my seedlings together. So at the moment it's a bit of a kind of barren wasteland here. The soil is very clayey, and it's going to need a little bit of work before I can actually kind of plant anything into it. But I think we're probably looking at about 6 square meters here. So it is a really good idea if I can get it sorted so I can grow something in it this year, but I'm not too sure. At the moment, I've just got a tray down with a couple of tomato plants that I've not put in anywhere yet. And I've also got a peach tree and an apricot tree that I picked up really cheap. So don't know how they're going to grow, but I've plonked them in here for now, so at least they get the warmth of the polytunnel. I really hope that you've enjoyed having a look around my polytunnel today. I've definitely enjoyed bringing you along and showing you round. But if you grow in a polytunnel or a greenhouse, I would really love to know how my polytunnel and the crops that I've got growing in here compare with yours, or if you're growing different varieties of things in your polytunnel, I would love to know, because this is my first proper year growing in here. So if there's any little hints and tips or things that you can tell me, I would love to know. And I'm sure everyone else watching this would also like to know, so make sure you leave a comment down below. And thank you so much for watching. If this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, please do hit that subscribe button and ring the bell to be notified of all of my latest videos. As ever, YouTube have some videos up now on the screen that they think you'll like, so please go ahead and watch those, and I will catch up with you in the next episode. Bye!